Live.
Did you remember to tweet? Or did we tweet on this? Or did we have to tweet
I
this
don't
one?
know. Are we going to start saying, did you exit? Did you X the thing?
Did you hear what he said? Did you exit? Like, did you just exit the place? And they're like, forget about it. We just exited the place.
I don't feel there's any way to turn that letter into a verb. It just doesn't
No.
work. And we're going to end up still saying tweet. Did you post on X? No.
I still go to
That's.
twitter.com. If I look up the site, I don't type, I don't think it's x.com. Is it x.com?
Well,
No.
let's see what happens. I'm going to type x.com and now I'm on a list.
I was going to say, oh, you're on
Oh,
a
no, it
website.
actually does redirect you to twitter.com/home. So, okay.
X.
I
Yeah.
felt like I was maybe going to go to an adult site, not in our sort of show's purview. So I wasn't going to screen share that just in
That would
case.
have been, yeah, that would have been the end of the show. See, on that note, and we're like, but obviously obviously I'm traveling, and you, as you can imagine, and I appreciate you helping set up the show
Yeah.
and get us kind of going. I am using Rode. Actually, I always forget that I can
Yep.
plug in my Rode mic. So every time I've traveled, I've always tried to use some kind of Bluetooth solution or whatever.
Sure.
I could have just
The
plugged
roads
it
are
in.
so good.
I know. And did you
Yeah.
see that the Rode just announced the
Rode
Pro?
Wireless Pro.
Dude, like everything okay, so we built up our system to be kind of like a pro in a
Yeah.
certain way, like with the case and all of that stuff. But that setup, man, that looks really nice. Easy to
So
go in that case.
the thing I like, the
Mm-hmm.
Rode Wireless Go 2 with all of the firmware updates
Mm-hmm.
have addressed almost all of the launch issues that I had with the Rode Wireless Go 2 microphones.
Yep, yep,
The
absolutely.
Pro aren't radically different. So I don't feel like, oh, I bought in on the Wireless Go 2 and now they're leaving me behind.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, no,
just
no.
a couple little quality of life updates and some things that are genuinely pro, like time code support. If you're not working time code like that, then you're gonna be fine with the Wireless Go 2.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm probably gonna get the Pro.
I like how you preface it you're totally fine with the two, but I'm definitely buying the Pro.
But
No,
I'm
I think
foolish with my money, so
for me, I'm not gonna lie, okay, so I don't use time codes as much. I do like the fact that
I
it
don't at all.
supports
Do you
higher
know? Do you
quality
want to
audio.
know? Okay, I know you're going to give me a rational example. Do you want to know why I want the Pro?
Why? I was gonna say the
Different colored
case.
LEDs.
Oh, you kidding me?
They have a different color for the power of the transmitter, the signal
On the display,
connection,
you mean?
and
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
recording light.
Okay.
That's it. So when I look down, I just see two blue little lights.
Oh,
And
you're
what I
using the
want,
Rode too. Yeah, see, look,
yeah,
I'm like
I'm
using
using the Rode also.
our beautiful stickers that we got from
Yeah.
TCL like a while back from that
Oh, that's a
collaboration.
great idea. Hold on, I'm going to do
So
that. I'm going to do that right
remember
now. I have
I think
a few of these left.
didn't you cover the Anchor, was not the Anchor, the Saramonic, the one with the
Yeah,
display
the
that you
Blink
can
Me.
change things? Yeah. So it just sounds weird when you say that, but it's like which
I
one do
mean,
you?
it sounds
Yeah,
wrong
the
when you
Blink Me.
say it, Juan.
Yeah,
Maybe just don't talk.
yeah, Blink Me.
Oh,
Okay, it's gonna have a
well,
little
that's
sensors
unfortunate.
coming up right now, but no, that one of the main features I really loved about it was the fact that you're able to put your own custom logos on it. So
Yeah.
once I saw that on your thing, I'm like, dude, I already have my face on a sticker. Why not just make it, the TK mic, and then the other mic is usually the other person.
Yep.
So short answer is, yeah, that's one of the reasons. And then I was on our friend Miriam Juar's the 10 Girls podcast earlier today, which will come out hopefully soon. So I plugged it into my Mac, and I'm like, dude, this thing just works.
Yeah.
And it is easy,
It's
it's
good.
simple, and the only thing I needed to make sure is I made sure that I had enough power here. And if I don't, this is again when Rode kind of just jumps in with the cool stuff. I got a second mic. I could just jump on to another one. I could do
Real
it.
good.
I could do the whole thing. But no, with that being said, I do want to say welcome to
Hey, everybody,
everybody.
welcome to a podcast.
Cast. Yeah, that thing we do every Thursday night where, one of us is in the studio and the other one is just, you know, just
On the
frolicking all over
road
the state.
again.
Well, I'm in San Francisco.
TK
I'm not
can't
that
wait to
far
get back out on the
the
road
road.
again.
It's weird. Okay, so Korea was a long trip. It was a fun trip. And as soon as I got home, and I feel like for a couple of weeks or so, like there was no travel, there was nothing going on, and I was like, this kind of feels nice. But then I kind of started missing it. It's weird.
Yeah.
And like when you're sitting too long. And this one's, luckily, this is a super simple one. It's an easy hopping up over quick to San Francisco, hanging out with some of our friends, and talking tech. Unfortunately, nothing I can talk about right now.
Nerd.
Doesn't that suck? I was like, hey, I'm traveling, but I can't tell you why.
Well, how about this?
Yeah,
tkbay doing a quick like overnight trip.
yeah.
What is your tech bag? What does your carry look like? You're streaming to us right now, and I mean it looks pretty good. Looks webcammy, but
It is.
that's
I
so.
was
How did you
trying.
achieve this video stream?
So video stream is pretty much a straight. So the setup that I keep trying to fix every single time is I try to kind of give as simple as possible. The laptop is my MacBook Pro. I've switched from Windows for my travel because of problems I had with my earlier system. The mic system we're using obviously is the Rode. I connected it straight in. I have just a key light that I have just pointed straight at me so I can get the best exposure as possible. The camera's soft. That's just how FaceTime cameras or the cameras on Macs are. And I'm just using my OnePlus weirdly 3.5 millimeter headphones. My
Nice.
tried and true that I never have to worry about. I use them for editing when I'm traveling because it's easy, it's simple, and I also use them when I'm using my AR glasses. So
Mm-hmm.
I have my I have my glasses here, and I was editing a video, and then I'm not gonna lie, the diop the X-Reel Air that you had, I wish I had those with me. I
Yep,
kept having to
they're
fiddle
pretty
with mine
good.
every time I tried to like, oh my God, that was such an easy experience. It was like you put them on and you do your thing. So that's primarily what I have for this setup for the stream. How many devices I have with me? I have too much. I have way
Are
too
you
much.
also like getting anxious going through airport security? Like, there's no way I can explain all this.
I like
I
between
look like
the
something nefarious.
laptop and the amount of phones I'm carrying, it's either I'm smuggling phones or I'm doing something. And I think the only thing I can basically vouch for, because I no longer carry a DSLR camera with me,
Yeah.
as you guys know, Homeboy is my main man.
Mm-hmm.
I take my Find X6 Pro everywhere. Um, it's tough to just say that I make videos. It's like,
Because wasn't it like last week someone got busted trying to? I think they were going to China, or were they trying to? I think they were flying to China,
mhm.
and they had like 190 Intel CPUs taped to their body.
Okay, I'm never gonna
Do
beat
I
that
have? I
guy.
might have that wrong, but I
Oh
want to say it
man,
was like a week or 2 weeks ago, and you're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I
That,
travel
that
with so many phones. There's no
I
way I don't look like I'm up to no good. Like there's no way I look in any way normal.
No, I know it, and it's never an easy. Yeah, see, going to security, you always have to pad in time in there. You always have to kind of account for that. You can't make it through security like a normal person. You're always going to get the, sir, we gotta see why there's so many layers of circuit boards in your thing.
For sure.
But yeah,
Or my
so
favorite is like whenever my backpack goes through the x-ray machine and it pauses.
yeah, and I was like, ah,
Every single time. There are so many backpacks and bags that just like run right through and then mine goes and then they just stop for a second.
yeah, and they're
You
like,
know, like
slice it through, turn it over. Like, I don't see,
I
is that a power
wonder
bank? Yeah.
what's up with this guy.
But I tried to keep it light. I didn't have a roll two cases, just one backpack and no roller. It's a quick 1 or 2 night stay. I'll be back in LA hopefully tomorrow, safe and sound, and then back to my normal shenanigans. And now that the weather's better, I can go out and start testing out some bikes because I
Nice.
gotta play some bikes and I gotta finish my review of the Fold 5. I'm done with the experience and trying it out. I just need to
Hmm.
put pen on paper and kind of, make the video happen. So that's the goal for this weekend. So hopefully we'll get there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, and again, I mean, like, I people know what I'm going to say about Samsung, the company, but like when it comes to how those of us like us and
Hmm.
the people that are in our chat, because we've got some lovely faces in the chat: JGJ,
Absolutely.
Ron Guido, Farhan, Lampros, Nick, Bionic Scoop, Vazikos. We saw Marilyn.
Marilyn, yeah, I
Um,
know. We haven't seen her for some
we
time. Welcome,
we
welcome.
got we got like the whole crew here just to kind of hang out and chat for a bit, and I feel like the kind of people that enjoy tech
Hmm.
appreciate some of that longer term conversation because they want an informed opinion, not just someone who read the specs off of GSM Arena to pretty B-roll. But to me, it feels like it's a widening gap. So like I'm playing with a couple phones here, and you're like, there, now would be the time where I'd be doing my follow-ups and like, hey, I've been using this for a little while. I just, brought the Vivos back out, those V27s. Like, those are really good phones, and they
Yep.
deserve a bit more
Follow. Yeah.
conversation. But like, there's zero mainstream audience for that anymore. So I know that there's like 1,500 people in my subscribers that might care
Hmm.
about a mid-ranger phone like that. It's
Yeah.
it's so it's so heady, and you're like, the Z Fold 5 is a big deal phone, and the taper on the conversation on that just felt so extreme this year. Where I know I'm definitely critical, and I feel like there's some small iterative improvements, but maybe
Yep.
Samsung could have done something more exciting. But to the same token, like, I also used to really enjoy the Apple S series phones better than the number phones,
Yeah. Well,
because
because
that's where you got the better phone.
well, I was going to say that's where they fixed the this is the brand new tech that we brought out, and then let's
And
just
then
show
we
you how
fixed
we
it.
fixed it. Yeah. Exactly.
We totally didn't turn an entire generation of phone users into beta testers.
Into beta
No,
testers,
we're
the first
Apple.
gen, always. Yeah, S series always have been, well, not have been, are the better series typically. Actually, we're not that far from an Apple event, if I'm not mistaken, right? There's like one in a
I
few
don't
weeks.
know.
I,
I'm
neither do
so
I. I'm not like I'm.
genuinely off the pulse. So, like, the big Apple news today was all these headlines from just tech sycophants.
Yeah.
Apple, in a shocking reversal, now pledges to support right to repair legislation in California. And you're like, no, they didn't. They issued a list of demands to change the legislation in
Station.
California so they wouldn't sue California if they tried to pass this bill. It is
Oh, they,
complete horse
lead-
poop. And it's
oh
there.
crap.
Apple is getting all of this goodwill. They're getting all of these positive headlines. Everybody's like, see, look, Apple's doing the right thing and they're coming around. They're getting ahead of the EU. And you read through what Apple says, they say, we're ready to support legislation that does all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, that wasn't a part of the California legislation. That wasn't a part of the California bill. So Apple is issuing demands to the state of California for them to not sue the state of
The state of
California
California.
over the bill as it stands in its current form. Because it's
Like, you better fix it or I'm going to sue, essentially. Yeah.
I don't want to say, Apple's like, no, I'll say it. Apple's a bully.
Hmm. Oh, no, no.
That
They command that. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah. So, when stuff like that pops up, of course I'm going to talk about it because it's like tech politics. So I'm all ready for a fight there. But I'm genuinely off the pulse when it comes to sort of just like, you used to have a feeling like this is when the new product is going to come out. This is when the new phone is going to come out. This is when it's good to trade in a device, or if you're looking at selling off your phone, stuff like that. And I can't. I have so many other things to keep track of now. Apple's not really high on my list of priorities anymore.
I was purely, it was more, based on the conversation, because earlier today when I was on Miriam's podcast, the subject came up as part of the rumor mill kind of coming up and all of that stuff. It was primarily more of a passing statement, not necessarily. I know I probably brought back
Yeah.
some conversations there, but the surprising part, I'll probably say, of many things that I've been doing recently is experiencing a device from OnePlus that is supposed to be a budget phone. We talked a
Yeah.
little bit about it last week, and it's supposed to be a
And now you've
budget
been
phone.
living with it.
Yeah, and living with it and then getting into it, and you're like, man, this is like, you're right. It's such a good fit for that T series that we could get crazy
Yeah.
speed, and you could see where the tailoring was done, the different
Sure.
specs and all of that good stuff. But it still hits so much above the belt with that, and that combination MediaTek and Nord has been
Yeah.
a solid performance. I mean, we saw it with the Pad. The 9000
Yeah.
is an absolute screamer. There's no question that they're going to be, performing out, obviously overperforming in everything that you can imagine.
Yeah.
And comes in with 16 gigs of RAM, UFS 3.1, the massive 50 megapixel camera, 120 hertz OLED panel. It's a flat panel, a lot of good, like all the vibes that you want to get. And of course, the alert slider, which is also a big,
Yeah.
like, wow, like it's such a feature now kind of a
It
thing.
really looks because you spent time with the Xiaomi 13 Pro.
Yes,
But
I
the
did. I got a
Nord
chance to play
looks
with them.
like it's punching in between like a top of the line Poco F and the starter Xiaomi 13.
Yeah.
It's like it slots in between. It still seems like it's aiming to be a little pricier than a lot of the Pocos and the regions that you would buy Poco, but I've got the Xiaomi 13 in front of me still, and you're like, this is a phone that's nipping at the heels of that Xiaomi 13 for like 2/3 the price.
And we saw, I mean, you saw it last week too. Remember, we were looking at the pricing,
Yeah.
somewhere between 450 to 550, depending on the combination, the variant that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And to think about the fact that it's using a flagship from 2022 that is a solid performer, and I feel like that's where they were able to make the pricing work. And supporting the bands that we have here in LA, that was a big surprise for me. Like hitting in the mid bands and hitting in the old Sprint towers that we were able to get, or the bands that we got. So
Yeah.
to me, absolutely an easy recommendation for anybody looking for a great device that provides you so much great features but not so much money. And I was really happy to see that it's actually available on Amazon. Obviously, it's imported by somebody. It's not an official for OnePlus, but you're able to pick up the device if you
Now,
want to be able to check it out.
I was gonna ask. First of all, I want to say hey to Eric. Tech Preacher is in the chat
yeah,
right now. I know it's like probably 11 o'clock or midnight over
Oh
in
man,
his neck of
I'm
the
sorry
woods,
for
so
starting
I
a little bit
appreciate-
later this week, guys.
I appreciate the
yeah.
folks who are still dropping by because I know we're
Yeah.
starting late even for us. But I feel like there is, and I don't mean this in a bad way, because sometimes we have fun with things like Ford versus Chevy, or your favorite sports team versus someone else's rival sports team. I feel like some of the decisions OnePlus is making are starting to align as competition for nothing. Like this Nord, and I don't have any insider information. It's not like anyone at OnePlus is going to be talking to me about like their strategy or product design or anything like this. So this is me just guessing. But nothing came out. They rode a lot of hype. They had tech publications covering them at a degree much higher than their products were really selling because of, sort of the leadership over at Nothing.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
this
Carl
Nord,
Command, yeah.
but tell me if like this Nord kind of feels like it's the way to undercut a Nothing phone too. To me, it feels like it was almost designed with the Oppo part spin to say, how do we take them down?
So from a processing power and generation wise, they both landed around the same time. It went with the Plus over the standard 8 Plus Gen 1. So the 9000 and the 8 Plus Gen 1 are pretty much in the same family. Small, maybe slightly a small little plus into Nothing.
I mean, so if we want to get specific, I would give the processing efficiency win to the Dimensity 9000, and I would give the GPU win to the 8 Plus Gen 1.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, and we're right on opposite sides of that line. Like, it's a close fight in both directions. Just one ekes out a little bit more of a win in one direction, and the other ekes out a bit more of a win in the other direction. They are laptop grade pocket computer processors that are
absolutely
stupid overkill for being in a $400 or $500 phone.
Dude, the seriousness of it though, really, like we're talking, I mean, they have the companies that are producing these, obviously like Qualcomm, is producing chipsets of equal performance power for their laptops. Like the SQ3 is an 888 powerful.
Well, and look at the Companios.
Yeah.
I want to say the top end Companio from MediaTek is actually closer in performance range to like a Snapdragon 865.
It's crazy. Like these are the
It's
same
somewhere in
processors
there.
that we're seeing there, and
Yeah.
literally like yearly generational upgrades. We are running with pocket computers, and we need to appreciate what we have in our pockets. And the reality is, yeah, this was actually even a comment that I was responding back to our friend Mark, and he was talking about basically, people going into stores and buying, like iPhone 13s. They're not trying to buy a 14 and whatever. I'm like, no, but this is the story. This is literally what we're trying to say. It's not always about the latest and greatest. Your phone doesn't die at 6 months increments or yearly increments. Like it doesn't even boot. You don't need a new phone. And where MediaTek's success has been over the last few years that we've seen ever since they've stepped up into the flagship experience is the way they're able to get that bang for the buck, that right price point for features. We get compatibility across international. I mean, it works in the US. And I agree, T-Mobile may not be the standard of the US market because Verizon and AT&T don't play very well
Sure.
with T-Mobile bands. But the fact that that device runs so nicely, benefits from all of the OnePlus benefits that we have with Oxygen OS, runs the latest Oxygen OS 13.1, the ability of pairing it with the pad and guaranteeing that mirroring and transfer data. There's a lot of cool things going on for it. You're right, it does feel like it's a straight up competitor to the Nothing Phone 2. And with a slightly, obviously, flavor and approach to it, there's no,
Sure.
light effect and stuff. But when you
Well,
take it the light effect,
I am purposely pointing out, like,
yeah,
I feel it's Oppo's part spin at play to arrive at a price competitor to the Nothing Phone. Like, how do you
yeah,
subtly undercut a brand who is already trying to undercut
you.
like more mainstream,
No, I know.
larger
There,
manufacturers, right? So
we know
to me,
exactly
this is like the
why.
arms races of like the relationships between engineers and designers and executives at Nothing and at OnePlus. There, there's a little behind the scenes, like I don't want to say incestuous. It's like that though. It's like they're so close to each other, and there
Mhm.
are so many of those relationships that have taken place over years that I feel very clearly one company started and then had the other brand in their sights, and the other brand went, "All right, game on. We can play this game too." And now they're kind of duking it out, not calling each other out, but to me it just feels like there's so much Venn diagram overlap of what they're trying to serve in the market that they're trying to support and the consumers that they're trying to sell to, to me it seems like there's a little flavor of that rivalry at play, which is amazing because that means we're getting
We benefit.
targeted mid-rangers that are
Oh, absolutely. But that's what I'm saying.
insane.
We get the benefit of that. And but for me, and I think I said it in the video as well. I feel like the biggest kicker for me right now is that we do have Nords in the US, but the Nords that
Yeah.
we have are carrier versions devices.
Yeah.
These are devices that OnePlus has specifically made to work with the budget versions of, like the T-Mobiles and so on. You
Mm-hmm.
still find them in the store. Like 11 isn't there, but the Nord is.
Yeah.
What I want though is because of the way we have the structure right now with OnePlus. OnePlus used to have two tiers, right? We had the standard version and the pro version, and then
Mm-hmm.
maybe later you'd have a T series. They used to make three phones, and then they dropped the two, and then there's the whole
Yeah.
hoopla. But now we no longer have that. We just have the 11, right? There wasn't a rumor of any OnePlus 11T coming out. I haven't heard anything. Maybe there is. I know we're all waiting and hoping on the fold, not the fold, the OnePlus
Open.
foldable open. Yeah. um, the name, I don't know, OnePlus, like Open? Nah.
The
Okay.
Oppo OnePlus Open.
The Op the Oppo.
Ah.
Well, that's what I'm trying to see. Open, because like, okay. But anyways, I feel like there's a gap in that market. In
Yeah.
the US
Oh, there
market, we
is
have the
definitely.
11 is that 650 something, depending if you don't get it on sale. And then if the OnePlus Nord 3 comes in at around the 550 price point, like keep that price point, but bring it in
Yep.
saying that, look, this is the upper middle, the upper budget friendly. If you want to step up, but you don't feel like you can step up to the
Right.
650, there's a spot for it now. Like this would be a good time to try to
There's
bring
room.
it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't have the carrier relationship at that price point because they only keep it on the Nord, right? On the N series. So this could work if OnePlus is really wanting to capitalize, because that's one thing Nothing has over OnePlus right now. They are in the US. They finally
Yeah.
did start selling in the US and directly, obviously, where OnePlus is not bringing in the I'm gonna say the elevated version of the Nords, like the one that we were
Yeah.
sold on at the beginning, like the first one that supported 4K 60 at the front-facing camera. Yeah, it's a unique thing. I like it. I like what it brings. It's fresh. It's exciting to see the design and to follow the full series. And it was a good collaboration. I want to say thanks, obviously, to MediaTek for sending me the device. It was actually nice of them to be able to
Yeah,
give me
that's really cool.
opportunity to work with them on that.
I feel like we are now starting to see the
Oops.
refresh cycle where
Yeah, we almost lost the light, but no, keep going.
okay,
Yeah.
we saw phones launch in 2020 with the Snapdragon 865. And then we kind of circled the 865. Like, wasn't there like a new tablet that came out this year with an 870 in it. So like 3 years
It's
on, we're
I want to
still
say it's
putting
the
out.
Xiaomi. Isn't that the Xiaomi pad, the one I
I want to
just
say it's
reviewed?
one of the Xiaomi pads.
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
So 3 years on, that is still an SoC of choice for manufacturers to lean on for a certain tier of performance per watt.
Yep.
We're not seeing 888s recycled for years past. We're not seeing the 8 Gen 1. That was a mess of an SoC. But I feel the Dimensity 9000 and the 8 Plus Gen 1 are going to have legs. I think into next year, we're still probably going to be seeing newer devices sporting those chips. Steve Pogue got it. It's the Xiaomi Pad 6. I mean, like, I can pick up my LG V60. I can pick up any phone from 2020. I recently just shot a video, and for no good reason, I pulled out a Galaxy S10 and an LG G8, and you're like, Snapdragon 855s are still beasts for what people actually need to get done during the day. So I kind of feel now it took us 3 years, but into the 9000, the 9200, and now into the 8 Gen 2, we have a tier of performance that is not going to be touched for another like 3 years. From here, what consumers are really doing on their phones, I think we actually now have the next cycle of chips that are going to last for multiple generations of product.
Absolutely,
So,
and I think the reality is the 888 and the 8 Gen 1 had well, I'm not going to say problems, but they had their issues. Obviously, and people knew, and I think the smart thing is that the companies are realizing this, and even if it may have been a cheaper SKU, some people going to the 9000 is the right move, going to the 8 Plus Gen 1 is the right move. I feel like, especially with devices that we're seeing coming out, in 2023, in the latter part of 2023. I mean, we're in Q3, right? I don't know, did we cross? No,
yeah,
we're still, yeah, we're in Q3. The year is literally almost over, and we're starting to, obviously, we're still
that's
seeing
messed
things like
up.
that. Yeah.
The summer
And,
went by way too
and the
fast.
Xiaomi Pad literally just launched not even a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago in June, like in
Yeah.
late June, early July. So it's crazy to see something like that, and it's really exciting to be able to at least leverage these desktop level experiences on these devices and still be able to save some money, because for the consumer this is where it becomes exciting. These are the flagship features attainable at a better price, and
Yeah.
it makes it so that when you live with this device for the next 2 to 3 years, you're still running a very good, very really nice experience. And although updates may not be exactly every month, every 3 months or so, because again, Nords don't get the same updates as regular OnePluses,
Sure.
you're still going to be able to enjoy it. It runs 13.1 on it, and I think if
Well,
anything else, ColorOS
and
is
we saw,
still, yeah.
and especially like starting this year into starting this year into next year, we saw what was it? Google's Project Mainline is now going to be carving up another 20 Android components that will be updated directly from Google. So even if you're not getting the numbered updates, you're not getting Android 15, Android 16, Android 17, even more. Like every generation, more and more of the Android kernel, more and more of the Android subsystems, more and more of the underpinning software is updated directly. And we're seeing that with the Google Play system updates. There was like another art runtime improvement to Android 13. And I think it went back 2 or 3 generations where you got a Google Play system update, your apps open 10% faster just because Google could pluck out this component, put it in. You didn't have to wait for your carrier or your manufacturer to weigh in on any of it. It was a core Android component, and there you go. And I feel like that's going to be sort of that tipping point for people who are really anxious about support. Really, what we want is the device to run as smooth as it possibly can. Maybe 3 operating system updates doesn't deliver the smoothest experience years on as your battery is starting to degrade. But if we're getting bug fixes, if we're getting patches, if we're getting performance improvements and security patches, that to me is a much better. I mean, I'm saying this as someone who's a fan of Motorola's, and we know Motorola's, you don't get the OS updates, man. But that thing is
It's
constantly being improved.
yeah.
It's just, it took a long time to get Android 13 on this, Edge Plus. with
From
Android
last year.
14
Yeah,
right around the corner.
Exactly, exactly. Congratulations, welcome to the club. You made it back into the team. No, I know. It's a tough experience, but the reality, you're right. You need to security patch updates. Actually, I feel like more important, especially with vulnerabilities and issues and coming up as things go on. And those don't require as much of an update because they're much smaller. They're typically like 1 to 200 megs, maybe, depending on
Sure.
the updates that they push.
But it also just means, for me, when we get improvements to things like end-to-end encryption in Google Messages, that's not going to be tied to a generation of phones.
Yeah.
The underpinning of Google Play services and Android services that need to be updated won't be carrier dependent, and they won't be manufacturer dependent. That kind of stuff is going to be brought back. When we got Nearby Share,
Oh man,
they went
yes.
back 5 generations of Android to deliver Nearby
Supported
Share.
through Google Play Store updates. Exactly.
And
Google
you
services.
didn't have to wait for a Samsung or a OnePlus or a Motorola update
Yeah.
to bring that. It was a core part of the Android ecosystem. So really, I feel like Windows, you need to pull more of the core operating system experience out from the hands of the manufacturers. And they want to put skins and things and do fun stuff on top. That's great. Go nuts. Go bananas.
Have at it. No, exactly.
But if there's a major new Android service, that needs to come from Google. So really, we don't want to sort of spoil the rest of the video because you have a lot more to say and a lot more
absolutely,
to share
yeah,
on
exactly.
the Nord, and I want people to go and catch your video on that.
Make sure to check it out. It's the last video that I posted on the channel. It truly is a surprising device. It is really nice and refreshing to see what MediaTek is able to help. How is MediaTek able to help with the Dimensity?
Yeah.
And that marriage between the two, these two companies, I really can't wait to see more.
The 9000 was so good.
Dude,
the 9200.
900 was crazy on the Vivo, man. The
So
X90
good.
Pro. That is there's very few. I'm trying to remember. What other devices? I don't think we've had other, or at least on my end, I haven't had another device other than the Vivo X90
Oh
Pro.
no, the Vivo X90 Pro was the big, and so that's another one. Like, I need to come back and revisit this phone because it's not an ultra tiered device, but I am running their beta, the Android 14 beta, on the Vivo X90 Pro, and it's only, I want to say it's beta 3.
Oh, okay, that's not bad.
So it's behind. It's not
well, I mean,
current
obviously,
with like Samsung or with definitely not with Pixels.
Samsung's way behind. Samsung's on still beta 1. No, beta 2 in Korea, but
I thought,
beta 1 internationally.
Seriously, I thought they were already okay. So Vivo, it might be a beta ahead then.
Well, I mean, we'll say this: the beta releases from OEMs other than Pixel are
No,
not
TK, it's
necessarily-
totally fine. If you want to say that Vivo is better than Samsung, I'm not going to fight you on that.
in Android 14 land. I think overall,
I'm going to clip this out and I'm going to make that like a quote
Oh crap!
that I am putting in
to.
your mouth. I'm TKbay, and I just said that Vivos are better than Samsungs. And I will not send that to any of your Samsung PR contacts. It's just between you and me.
And
it's just for me to enjoy.
The entire experience and
it's for my own personal enjoyment.
I will say thank you for letting me know. I did not know about the Vivo beta, which I would love to be able to test.
Oh yeah, the X90 beta. So I'm sorry, burying the lead. Their Android 14 beta is pretty good.
Okay.
But it even further breaks things like desktop mode. The Android 14 desktop mode is it just white screens. It is not only now you don't even get the desktop, it is completely non-functional. So that is a bummer, but that 9200 is tackling Android 14 like a champ.
Yeah.
So all of the chips that came out the end of last year through this year are just insane. They're absolute monsters.
Oh no, I think this is the biggest thing we have to appreciate again. MediaTek has stepped up tremendously in that market, in the market in there, and now they're very much. We're seeing more companies take them on and bring them in. We just obviously in the U.S. it's a little bit harder because again Samsung, Qualcomm, and we have different companies obviously that already have partnerships for many years. It's a little bit different. But if there was a company to bring it in, OnePlus was the right one to bring it in. I feel like this is why a Nord 3 with the 9000 would make so much sense in the U.S. market right now. From a price point, from a feature point, and yeah, it's not going to be in the store, and yes, it's not going to be, but this is how you start the experiences and building up the brand. OnePlus didn't start in a store. OnePlus started as word of mouth and tech enthusiasts, and it grew to the brand that it is. So, and then obviously now we're leveraging Oppo's relationship. A lot more of their inputs are in there, Hasselblad, the Color OS, and a lot of things can work. And definitely, it has a little bit of I want to say a little bit of like a Realme, like the essence of like how like the cheaper, faster, bang for the buck experience. So it's like going back to your roots. That's what the Nord is.
And I like that. What do we want to call that? Because like Pocos and Realmes kind of have that hot rod. Like you had that one buddy who had an old beat up Camaro that looked like crap, and like
Yeah.
most of the body panels were primer gray, but like he'd spent 6 months on the engine, didn't upgrade the suspension, probably didn't touch the brakes, but boy howdy does that car go fast in a straight line, right?
Yeah.
I kind of feel that way about like a Poco F, and it feels like this Nord also kind of fits that too. It doesn't have the plush interior or all the trim available, but it goes real fast when you point it at something to go real fast.
That 0 to 60 is absolutely fantastic, and I think that's the biggest benefit there. So, again, definitely, if you guys have some time, please make sure to check out the video. It's on the channel. Like, yeah, I think I posted it on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, or Tuesday or
I
Wednesday.
reshared it on Mastodon.
The mastodons of the world. Yeah, no, I need to. I've been. Oh man, it's like okay, the last few weeks I'm since back from Korea and then dealing with the whole weather that we had over the last weekend.
Yeah, tell me social media hasn't been a massive pain in the ass.
It's just it's a lot.
It's
of
not
things.
fun right now.
It's a lot of work. I feel like I may need I seriously feel like I may need to hire a dedicated person just to deal with the amount of social sites and places.
If you want to chat, I have a pal that she's doing some like small business marketing, and if you want to talk about systemizing your social media, she's good people. So
oh my God,
I can hook you two up, and you two can chat. And she's starting to do some legit consulting.
Yeah,
but we'll save that for after the show.
It's becoming a job.
It has been for a while, and now it's even more of just a time suck.
No, I'm sorry. I meant on my side. I feel like where I have multiple hats that I change on a daily basis, having another thing become another hat to put on top of the fact that I don't have enough time in the day is just not. I mean, but that's one of the reasons why, like, you'll see me post for a couple of days or so, and then you'll see me just disappear for a week. I'm still trying to interact. Like I share and I try
I'm that way with especially with photo sharing. Like I'll get into a flow and I'm like, yeah, I'm posting on Flickr, and I'll even share a few things on Instagram, and then like a month goes by and you're like, I can't even look at this right now. This is so much extra that I have to do.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. But one thing that I was very excited about, and you and I talked about it offline last week, and we were chatting a little bit about trying to join forces, Wonder Twins activate kind of a thing.
Zing. Oh wait, other way.
The power of NAS. No.
I'm upgrading my NAS.
So what's going on? Tell me what's going on with that.
Okay.
I know we both use QNAP, but you have a much better setup than I have.
Mine is much more... I think mine is the step down from yours. I have the ARM chipset.
Yeah.
I think it's the Annapurna. The TS332X. It's the 3-bay.
Yeah, mine is the 4, exactly.
But I went with that because that was their starter option at the time. This box has been discontinued. They're still supporting it with software updates. It's running OS 5. It's incredible. But this part of the podcast not brought to you by QNAP. They're not sponsoring this at all. So I'm running the 332.
Please talk to us after.
Yeah, for sure. I have a switch and their router. My entire core network here is QNAP'd. This was their first option for the 10 gig data connection. So it's a 10 gigabit NAS, which I now have connected into a 10 gigabit switch, which is supported by their 10 gigabit router. And that's why I put a 10 gigabit NIC into my Monster workstation. So everything on our network now, any cabled connection is 10 gig.
Nice.
Which is real nice. We're talking about a box of spinning platter discs in a RAID 5. So we're in not the most robust, and this is not the fastest setup. But it doubled my throughput to do 4K video editing and rendering directly off the NAS. And this is like, again, it was like their starter option for
Nice. Okay.
a little small business 3-bay.
So
So
exactly. So the good part now, lead us.
I
Yeah.
started it off with some Western Digital drives that I
Okay.
pulled from my Western Digital box, which was garbage. Boy, howdy, were our Western Digital enclosures just terrible. Some of their drives are still pretty good. Probably avoid the SanDisk stuff for now because they're just nuking data left and
It's
right.
very the SanDisk name and brand has ever since it was bought over has not
Just
been the same. It's felt like it's
tanking.
yeah, the quality has
You can
gone
tell
down.
that they're, I mean, when we're talking about these kinds of issues, the teams that they have for supporting their memory cards have to be different QA
Oh,
teams than
yeah,
what they're
it's
putting
not
into their
even exactly.
portable
Yeah, no, no,
SSDs. So
absolutely.
I had some 10 gig Western Digital Reds, but they were the
Good stuff.
5400 RPM.
Well, I mean
And
for
you're
a
like,
NAS, but
okay,
yeah, yeah.
at some point I should probably swap these out. We talked last week, and I was like, yeah, I'm kind of getting to that point where I'm getting a little, box is getting kind of full. I checked my storage after our stream. I was way off. I was down to like 15% accessible storage
Oh man.
on 20 terabytes of user accessible storage.
Hmm.
So you're like, you know what? I am running lean. The next night, I get an alert from Newegg that Seagate Iron Wolf Pros are on sale. So it's like Newegg is listening to me still. But I got a really good deal on a trio of it was before tax. It was just under $1,000 for a trio of 20 terabyte Iron Wolf Pros.
Oh, you went with the 20. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so I went from 10 terabytes per bay to 20 terabytes per bay. Uh, those drives came in today. At the same time, I'm pulling the box open. I'm just checking all the connections. I added some padding just to help with vibration and stuff like that. Because the one thing about the smaller QNAP enclosures,
Hmm.
they're really rattly. So as the drives are vibrating, the toolless caddies that they have,
Yeah.
they buzz like crazy. So I installed just some like weather stripping, very,
Hmm.
very, very thin, but some foam padding. I'm double checking all that. And I'm looking through and hey, you know what? I still have the starter RAM stick in here. It's a little 4 gigabytes of RAM. I wonder how much it would be I'm
227.
just to bump it up to 8 because I'm not doing anything so hardcore on this box. Like I don't need to go to 16. I'm not running a bunch of virtual machines. I'm not doing torrenting directly from it. This
Hmm.
is mostly dumb storage, and I use it as a Plex server. So like
Yeah.
I know I'm like just functional at 4 gigabytes of RAM, but it'd be nice to step it up. So I look at the compatibility chart, and QNAP is like, oh, well, to sell you 8 gigabytes of RAM, we'll sell you an 8 gigabyte RAM stick for that box for like $150. Wait a minute.
Minute.
That can't be.
150 bucks for an 8 gig. It doesn't it use laptop grade memory sticks?
1.2 volt, 260 pin DDR4 low speed. It's 266 or
Yeah.
2666. Um, so on a whim, I pulled out one of my Nooks because I do have like three little
We have a
baby
few of
Nooks
those.
over
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah.
And like I
It
pop
has.
one of them open and you're like, hey, this is Kingston RAM, laptop memory, 1.2 volt, DDR2666. I
And it
think it's
worked.
gonna fit. So I rip that out of the NAS. I rip out the 4 gig. I put the 4 gig back in the Nook. Windows on that Nook is going to run like garbage now with only 4 gigabytes of
Exactly.
RAM. But I pop in the 8 gig, box boots up beautifully. Now the OS is like fully loaded up with like it. So you kind of float at around 2.5 gig of RAM,
Hmm.
which means now I've like tripled the amount of free RAM I have for other
Other
media
things, yeah,
server
other
activities and
exactly,
stuff like that.
exactly. If you're running
And just
anything.
like firing up a 4K stream, like added 100 megabytes to my memory load. Like it's nothing. So now
That's
I've
good.
got plenty of headroom. I pop in the first drive just to do the rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
Each drive is going to take about 17 hours to re-image.
I'm not surprised. I had one of my
I
so one of
have
my
way too
4 bay
much stuff
died.
on this NAS.
Well, no, but that's how it is. It needs to rebuild the library. All of the stuff
Yep.
out of the other drives that you still have in there, they rebuild it into the 20, and you have to replace them one at a time. Otherwise, you risk losing the data. But
Yeah.
the rebuilding process, one of my drives on my and now I have to go check on my QNAP. Obviously not a QNAP issue, but one of my Reds, my Western Digital Reds died, and I'm not running 10. I was running 8 TB,
Yeah.
8 TB for me, which in hindsight I should have
Were
upgraded
you
one. Not
doing RAID 5?
yeah, I rate 5 on I think
So
on it's basically
so you
two
had like 24 terabytes of
of usable storage.
addressable space with a swap drive.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I'm able to basically when one died, I was still okay, but I
Yeah.
was panicking because the 8 TB model was no longer made for some reason or hard to find. Like Newegg didn't have it, and I luckily found a
Yeah.
few left on B&H. So I bought three. It was like at 150 a pop. I bought three at a time, and I'm like, I'm keeping a couple of extras. So I have a few in
Yeah.
there left. But you're right, though. I am running pretty lean, especially with our storage. Not necessarily a lot of like rips and stuff, but like our
Yeah.
photos and stuff like that, just in case. God forbid something ever happens. Like, I'll honest to God,
Well,
if there was
I
ever a
mean,
thing happening, that would be one of the
not
first
just
things I
for the
grab as I'm running out of
archives
the house.
of my channel. Ooh, excuse me. Not just for the archives of our channel, but
Hmm.
like I've been shooting 4K video for family stuff
Yeah,
since
that's all I
the
shoot. 4K 60 or 4K
LG
30.
Flex.
Yeah,
So I mean, with the Galaxy
same.
Note 4, I
All I shoot
switched
there.
over to 4K,
Hmm.
and I've only been shooting 4K for all of our family stuff since then. And so that's a lot.
Hmm.
That takes up a lot of space.
It
Oh,
takes a lot of
Farhan
space.
looked it up. So Farhan was able to do a little comparison shopping, and he found a 16 gigabyte RAM stick, Kingston DDR4, for
33 bucks.
$33.
3 bucks.
So the
Man,
official
the markup
8
on that
gigabyte
QNAP.
QNAP RAM
Sheesh.
didn't feel like a great bargain.
They have a
So
lot more overhead to pay for. Maybe that's what this
so
is.
I might pull apart. It's not my Nook, but I have a little Geekom with a Core
Mm.
i5, and I might rip that one open. And I've got a 512 gig solid state SSD that I can pop in there. But I might double up, like like
Why
80
not?
bucks and get yourself 32 gigs of RAM for a little Core i5. That
I
could be a
may
little
follow your suit
screamer.
actually. I may go down and rip out the memory and see which one I have and maybe see if I can double that up because
Because
that's an
it's not
easy
gonna,
upgrade and we have the same hardware
yeah,
for the most part. Yeah.
and it's not gonna be a radical difference, but it's like everything about your system runs a little smoother when it's got that extra headroom. And I
Hmm.
was
RAM
using
is one of
a
the biggest things you could do.
256 SSD,
Hmm.
256 gig SSD as a swap space, and you're like, I don't have to touch it as much, so I'm not gonna burn out that drive as quickly. But so hopefully by this time Saturday, I'll be done swapping out all those drives, and I will have effectively doubled my total capacity. And then I can go through and clean out some of the stuff that I know I don't need to keep. Like I've got photo backups all the way back to my original like forum posts and first
Oh
writing
man.
gigs for tech blogs. Like where are we on? Like 15 years ago. I don't think I need to keep all that anymore. Or I can like zip it up and like monster compress it, and when I need to access it, I can open up a compressed
Uncompress it.
folder or
Yeah. No,
something.
no,
But
exactly. I think that's the best way to either compress the drive or compress the data, or at least you need to
yeah,
spend some time. The thing about it is it's the time consuming sorting and filtering and all of the. This is one of the things I really wish the GUI interfaces that we have for QNAP was a little bit more robust.
yeah.
And it because it's virtual and it's running over network, it's usually a lot slower. So I think what I may do is bring it down to the office because I have it in another room, hook it
Mm-hmm.
up to a monitor because mine has an HDMI port on the back,
Mm-hmm.
and just keyboard because working on it, it's faster.
Oh
Running it
yeah.
over the network, obviously, there's always a delay.
See, that's
So,
one of
but
the downgrades for my box is we don't have the video out.
yeah, that
So
was
I
one of
have
the
to
things I
go
liked about
through.
it was
Yeah.
that I was able to run it as its own box, like I can hook it up to any TV or something like that. But I chose to put
Um,
it closer to where our our modem was coming in at the time,
Mm-hmm.
back when we first set up the place. So it's sitting in upstairs where I need to have it closer to my Wi-Fi router, which is downstairs. So yeah, it's something that I need to pay attention. But if nothing else, I need to check the health of the drives. Hopefully
Yeah.
nothing died recently. But that's good.
You
That's
know,
good. So that's going
like
to be
the
good.
Reds have been doing me really well. I had a 4 bay with 4 terabyte
Hmm.
Western Digital Reds. All of those drives are still awesome.
And for the
The
most part, I feel,
enclosure
yeah.
imploded on me. So then I stepped up to 10 terabytes
Hmm.
in another 4 bay, and that enclosure imploded on me. But the drives are still doing
Still
great. I
good.
mean, like
Yeah.
this has been a box that has had almost no down. So my 3 bay QNAP has
Hmm.
had almost no downtime for almost 4 years now,
That's
and
good.
those four, no, 3 years. Sorry,
Hmm.
yeah. So almost 3 years now, and those 10 terabyte Western Digital Reds have been doing fine. So I've been really impressed with like the state of hard drive tech for these types of small business and home solutions.
Yeah.
But until I got this QNAP, I had miserable experiences with the enclosures. So
No, QNAP, I like the way they do their work. This is my first. I've used other I would call them like more like dumb bays. They're more just basically a 2 or 3 bay drive that just runs connection. So
hmm
essentially, think of it like a hub for the
yeah,
lack of a better term. But those solutions unfortunately don't provide backup. The connection is also not as fast and it's not managed. You're not
yeah.
able to, you can't run apps off of there's no OS running in the background to manage all of that. And QNAP does a really nice job. I don't know what happened to my Red, but I was surprised. I mean, obviously the system still worked.
hmm
It didn't fail on me. But the biggest thing is the swap time was long, but it was efficient. Like
Yep.
it healed itself and it updated itself. And you're right, QNAP still supports their older devices. That's one of their main benefits. It's like
Oh, the
NVIDIA Shield
updates have
that keeps
been
getting updates for years to come.
yeah.
Exactly.
I,
It's
I
like that
keep
one,
waiting for the announcement that like, hey, we're gonna end of life your
the
NAS, and
system.
you're like,
Yeah.
no, it's still been getting all. So the only new features it hasn't gotten have been some of their most advanced photo server
Hmm.
AI tools,
Oh, yeah.
where you can train the newer NAS, the newer QNAPs. You can better train like auto tagging of photos and like face matching people in your family and stuff like that. I don't care. Like the rest of it's just still been working great. But I just wanted to check in real quick. I got the drives just after lunchtime, and I started doing the rebuild on drive 1 of 3, and I still have 11 hours to go. So it's gonna be a bit.
The 20 terabytes that you got, are still 5400s or did they bump it up to 72?
No, the Iron Wolves are 72.
72.
So
Okay.
once I can get to 2 rebuilt drives, the third one should go faster.
Much faster. Yeah.
So I want to say the 5400 Western Digital Reds as singular drives have a throughput somewhere around 120
Hmm.
megabytes per second, and these new Iron Wolves can hit like 200. Now, obviously, you won't sustain 200
Hmm.
megabytes per second individual drives, but even just my average speed, like right now, it's rebuilding data from 2 other drives, and it's kind of floating at around 130 megabyte per second
Hmm.
file transfer, which is pretty fast for
Pretty fast for
5400
5400s,
RPM
exactly.
drives. 2 drives working in tandem, you're splitting the load, you're getting a better throughput than one drive to one drive.
Hmm.
Once I can do 2 of the Iron Wolves rebuilding the third, then I should be adding a significant boost. So the
That's
third
good.
drive, its re-imaging should be a lot faster, but the second one's going to be a chore because it's going to be one Iron Wolf with one Western Digital Red, That might actually go slower.
Yeah, yeah. The efficiency on that 2 different speed, they're like, nah, we're gonna not only default on the lower, but we're gonna slow it down too,
Yeah.
just to be on the safe side. No, I know.
And to make sure that the data is actually being like organized and transferred, that one could suck. So again, it's still probably going to take me till like through Saturday.
I see.
But-
I see how
but
your
we'll
plan
get
is.
there.
Like, yeah, shoot, be conservative. It's good. It's Thursday night. Why not? Enjoy your Friday. Saturday will be good for the
Party!
weekend. Party at Saturday night at Juan's house. That's
So
exactly what it
I
is.
don't want to push this too long. I know we were going to say an hour, but I got to talk about these crazy ass headphones.
Yes.
These completely came out of left field. A friend of mine who's doing some audio PR work hit me up and said, hey, these are kind of funky. Do you want to give them a listen? And I said, heck yes, I want to give them a listen, because they are utilizing a completely different driver than anything I have been familiar with in the past. So I'm trying not to pull everything off of this table here. Actually, I'm just going to disconnect the cable and then we can just hold them up. So these are the Sineaptic SE-1.
Okay.
And you can see they're real big. Real big, chunky boys.
I'm more so focused on the cushioning at the top at this point, but yes.
Yeah,
no,
they got little skull pads.
Yeah.
Skull pads. So, I can actually put them on.
Yeah.
And I don't love the look of the headband design. I think it's a little tall. It's a little cone heady. They're not the best looking headphones I've ever seen, but these giant sprung skull pads do take a lot of the weight off of the sides of your head and off of your ears, and like they feel lighter on your head than they do in your hands. But one of the reasons why you probably need this extra engineering is because these are using dual crossed ribbon drivers. So a dynamic driver is a lot like a speaker cone that goes in a speaker. It's got a big magnet and a big circle, and it kind of vibrates the diaphragm from a centered magnetic source.
Exactly.
You got to spend some time with my Odyssey LCDs. Also, quick tangent, Odyssey just got bought by Sony. So Sony now is going to own Odyssey, and Odyssey has made some of the all-time best gaming headsets. So this could be like Apple and Beats, or it could just be Sony going like, hey, in a future version of like the XM6 or the XM7s, we're going to put planar drivers into these Bluetooth headphones. We don't know what this is going to look like, but it could be awesome because Odyssey is one of my all-time favorite headphone manufacturers. I digress.
Absolutely.
So you played with my Odyssey LCD ones.
Yeah.
A good sort of mainstream. When they came out, I would have called them a starter planar magnetic headphone.
Yeah.
Now you can get some really competitive planar magnetic headphones for like. So I'm sorry, the LCD ones I think originally retailed for around $400. Now you can get a good planar in that ballpark for like $250.
Okay.
So these are ribbon drivers. Just like a ribbon microphone where you've got like this crimped piece of metal that, you've got electricity that goes over, it's suspended in magnets, and the vibration of the electrical signals on those magnets wobble this ribbon, and that creates the percussive and concussive force that our ears register as sound. $199.
Whoa. Okay.
They also have Bluetooth built in. They are built to be mobile first, so they have to have their own amp and DAC that can drive really fancy, weird drivers. For $199, I've spent most of my time so far, I've only had them for a couple days, but plugged in over a cable powered by one of my other portable DACs, amps, whatever. This is one of the most articulate headphones I've heard, sub $500. Okay. So this is finding the detail, the granular imaging. They're open, they're super, super open back. So like a ribbon microphone, they are bi-directional. Okay. So anyone who's standing next to you is going to hear very clearly what you're listening to, because a ribbon has to go both directions. You can't cap a ribbon the same way that you can cap a planar magnetic driver or a dynamic driver. I don't know that you would ever want to listen to a closed back ribbon. And to my knowledge, there have only really been 2 or 3 other ribbon headphones that have been mass produced to any degree. And I want to say the cheapest ribbon I've found, someone please correct me on this, I would love to know. The cheapest ribbon I've ever found was somewhere around $1,200. And it's not difficult to find other ribbons hitting like $3,500. A bug just flew in my face. So, cross dual driver ribbons. I think this might be a mosquito. I'm going to be very mad if there's a mosquito in my office.
That isn't. I would. Yeah. No. If it's a mosquito,
Extremely hyper articulate. And in sometimes, like if you're listening to really aggressively mixed pop tracks, there are a few of my test tracks that are almost fatiguing, that the reproduction of sound is so aggressively detailed. I love them. They're crazy. Not my favorite look, not my favorite headband, but there is something to this $200 ribbon where I would easily put these up against sort of the next price tier up on planar magnetics. So I'm going to be driving these. These are now in pre-order on the Sineaptic's website. I'm going to be playing with them for a few more days, really putting them through all of like my favorite listening tests and stuff. I've got a playlist on Qobuz if anyone wants to catch like my first listen playlist for headphones. But there's something really interesting here. If you can mass produce a planar magnetic competitor at this price point, then you've got yourself a really solid solution for an open back, detailed, buzzy, articulate, and really good thumpy. Like not floppy bass, they're not like Soundcore bass head, but just a really good
No, I know you mentioned
low end
Soundcore,
rumble.
and it's the pair that I
Yeah.
have in my pocket.
No, I mean like Soundcore, they tune specifically to kind of be like skull rumblers.
Yeah.
That's not these, but there is a sub bass quality to these that is really satisfying. And without just playing with like an overly manicured deep V or smiley face, like they're not bumping up the highs just to make things brighter. It is this immediately crisp and articulate response because of the way that like a planar membrane and this membrane can vibrate air over a larger surface area. It is a bit more like you're wearing a speaker on your head than a headphone. And
it felt that way with the
the Odyssey.
part. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I've got my LCDs over here too. And I've just been a kid in a candy store. I've just been going back and forth, like LCDs to my Sineaptics, to the LCDs to the Sineaptics. Because you have so much more material, and you can kind of see, like, a planar magnetic is not a small driver, but you can see how much bigger the Sineaptic is against my LCD1. These are a lot harder to drive. So where my LCDs you could kind of get away with a more consumery DAC amp to power the LCD ones. Now the Sineaptic need like the THX. they need quite a bit more juice to get those ribbons really cranking. But when you do, you're treated to just a phenomenal, just an incredible articulation. And if you love like that honky, buzzy sound on a saxophone or really crisp guitar distortion, if you love bands like Tool, and you listen to Tool on something that's too bass head heavy, you ruin the Tool mix. A Tool mix is actually really delicate. And when you treat yourself to something that's more articulate than it is just fat, all of this production, all of this soundscaping and design just comes out beautifully. So you hear like a sea of drums with this perfectly articulate bass guitar with these ripping lead guitars, and then Maynard's voice just kind of floats through like he's a minstrel, you know, like it's just so layered and it's so complex. And when you treat yourself to some really good open back headphones, there's just so much space. It's such a grand mix. So that's the kind of stuff that these do really well. And I would say they are wonderfully competitive against a good starter planar magnetic.
Very nice. And the pre-orders, is it going to be $199 after the pre-orders, you think, or is it purely for the pre-order?
I don't know. Okay. This brand is super new. And if you go to their website, like, they don't even have some of those things that we take for granted on headphone websites. Like, you would go and you're like, well, where's your frequency response graph? Or, you know, like, you've got to dig into a PDF to try and find, like, what's the frequency response? What's going on with the Bluetooth? Like, it took me a while to kind of dig into my phone settings to find the codecs that are being supported by the built-in Bluetooth chip. And you're like, I know you're in pre-order, but some of this stuff should be on your website, and you can tell this is a very new brand.
I was going to say, but especially for the audience that you're trying to shoot for, that they are going to basically try to look for that data, because they also want to understand what are the levels, what is the experience going to be, and what you should expect and how to drive it.
Well, because we're making a big claim. This is a different kind of headphone driver. It's a different kind of headphone diaphragm. And if you go looking for ribbon, it just flew into my face again. That stupid
I
bug.
want to say, I almost thought, yeah, it didn't look like a bug, though.
And I can kind of see it, like, it keeps kind of flitting by my lights.
We're about to end the show quickly, as
I know, because Juan's going to start trashing his office here.
No, he punched the camera incorrectly, as opposed to you're hitting the fly. No, I get it. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you search for a ribbon driver headphone, you're going to find two other brands that are selling north of $1,200. Oh. So there's a big claim when you start playing with these other more exotic drivers and diaphragms. Mm-hmm. And the audience of consumer who would be interested in a slightly more exotic headphone, they really care about those nuts and bolts. They really care about all of those details. It matters. So it's some of the feedback that I'm already giving my buddy who's running this sort of PR is like, I know they're being a little precious about like what their tech is and the arrangement of the ribbon. So there are two distinct diaphragm drivers per ear, but the orientation of that matters, and the frequency and the tuning and the filtering, everything of that, I get it. But you still got to give us a little more than what's on your website right now for the kinds of claims that just the construction of this would be making. So
no, absolutely.
So one more time, this is the Sineaptic, and it's also in the name of it's in the title of our podcast this week. But this is the SE-1, their very first headphone. $199 is not cheap, but there is something really interesting happening here. So I'll have a lot more to say. And again, it's not just all perfect. There are some pros and cons. I think some of the design is a little funky. But if you're sitting at home and you just want a really fun headphone to really start kind of cracking into the more audiophile kind of sound reproduction, this is exotic, but it's doing some really fun things.
Well, I'm glad you got a chance to check it out. It's always nice to be able to check out some new product coming out. And definitely, I mean, the design, like you said, it's a unique design. But I always thought, well, with open bags, you don't want you're not going to be taking them out and going sitting outside, and you want to be in a quiet area to be able to enjoy them. You want to be able to actually, get that experience going. So hopefully that
they're real big.
They are. No, they are.
I look like a Cyberman.
Yeah, just about. I was about to say
Doctor Who. Delete.
So, but yeah, no, for sure. And to answer the question that we saw before, I'm wearing the Watch 6 Pro. So not the 6 Pro, the 6 Classic from Samsung. I'm also working on that video to try to get the usage on that. That one, unfortunately, I did not have pre-release. I purchased that one, upgrading from the 5 Pro. Nice. I had the 5 Pro from last year. They don't do the Classic on Samsung watches every year. They do it every other year, I think. And I'm glad that I think they have the spinning crown. I'll say a little bit of a teaser on this one with the video, and not that it's a big one, but I missed the battery life on the TicWatch. I'll say that.
Yeah.
The TicWatch spoiled me. Like,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm still really pissed with Google on how they've been treating Wear OS. I'm really pissed that they're deprecating the Google Assistant for Wear OS 2. So now older watches are just completely left out of some of the newer watch features. But going to a Pixel watch on this new Qualcomm chip got me a little interested in what we might see for a Pixel Watch 2. It's just really frustrating
we're
how
at
this
the
has all been
cusp.
playing out.
We're almost at that point too. Yeah, we're getting close to Pixel days.
See, Marilyn was going to make fun of me too. I was just going to say, you look like a Cyberman from Doctor Who. It's the headband. The headband is so elevated and it's so tall for those the skull pads.
But it also protrudes a little bit outside of the actual
Yes!
band circumference, right?
So all you need is the
pad,
little,
once you put
like,
it on,
that little block that the Cybermen have in the middle of their headband, and you've got your Halloween costume
you never know,
ready
man.
to go.
Maybe the team over at Sineaptic has been, are they're Doctor Who fans. They wanted to bring it into real life and give you some good audio with it at the same time as you're taking over the world. But yeah, no, it's always tough having kind of like try out new things with technology, and especially when it surprisingly does kind of
For
pay
sure.
off.
And I don't
it's
want to
always-
misrepresent. So I mean, like, if you've got like some really expensive Sennheisers, or you've ever listened to electrostatics, or like good mid-range, you've got to drive them with a good desktop amp, planar magnetics. That's not what these things are going after. They are going mobile first. They want this to be sort of an open back that you can take other places. They don't just have to live in your home. But this is a $200 headphone. This is a $200 headphone that I think is competitive against some more expensive planar magnetics, but they're not magic. But this has been a really delightful listening experience in what I feel is a good starter audiophile price range.
That's good. And it's one of those things always nice to be able to check them out. So hopefully once you're done with them, maybe we'll be able to.
I gotta get these on your ears. After you spend some time with the Odyssey, again, they're open back, so they're going to be a little different than your like Baradynamics. We both love those old DT770s.
Oh, the DT770s.
But I got to get your ears in these things.
I
because
really liked the Odysseys. It was a fresh experience.
Yeah.
I never got a chance to go back and pick up a pair for myself, but I think what happened to me was it
they discontinued the LCD one shortly after I gave them to you.
Oh,
so now they're
okay.
considered legacy, and Odyssey went even higher upscale for a lot of their headphones.
And then they just got bought out.
And now they just got bought out by Sony. They got acquired, I should say. It's a little rude to say they got bought out.
Well,
no, Sony acquired.
It's not North by Google, like it's different.
But yeah, again,
that's acquired.
Well, and also I feel like Sony has so much more to grow off of. Odyssey is the boutique label, but I still bring out their Mobius, their planar magnetic gaming headset, which had Bluetooth, LDAC, and spatial audio head tracking.
Oh, okay.
Way ahead of the curve. So you would sit there. You would have to manually set your visual perspective, but then Mobius was one of the most detailed and beautifully room articulated head tracking I've ever heard. So it doesn't auto connect you to your video source, but you'd go boop, and then the slightest little head movements were perfectly sort of manufactured in space. Mobius is so good. So if Sony can bring some of that to the PlayStation label, that's huge. That's huge. Or this could also just be Sony Electronics, and we could get if we could get like XM7s. I seriously doubt it's going to be a quick, like the next generation headphone is going to have any of
XM5s
this.
just came out, but yeah, I'm sure the XM6s are already.
I feel like XM6s are already in development, but if XM7s come with planars, you can miss me with any other electronics brand headphone. Like, you can miss me with AirPods Max. You can miss me with, like Bose. Like, I've become such a snob for good mainstream planars. And Sony and Odyssey, that could be a really good combo. So fingers crossed that that's smooth sailing for two companies that I'm really big fans of their consumer gear.
I'm excited to be able to hear more about it, and hopefully we'll get some kind of content out of that over either on the Patreon or as early access or directly
sure.
even available on
Yeah, I'm
on
gonna
the
have
channel.
a first listen up soon on the Patreon. Just getting through my whole playlist just for that first, knee jerk initial experience. This one I feel is special, so I'm gonna crib just some light notes on me rambling through what I'm hearing on these things because I think they're really fun.
That's good. And so for everybody that's listening, if you're not part of the show, if you're listening to us also on the podcast, the links to Juan's Patreon and channels and socials, and also myself, as well as the audio version of this podcast, is available in the show notes, in the description of this video on YouTube. I don't think it transfers over to Twitch, but at least on YouTube, and for sure, nothing transfers to Twitch. But yeah, man, it's definitely an exciting week. Hopefully, we'll have even more exciting stuff next week. I'm sure Juan will be back for the SGGQA on Monday. Question: is this the pajama podcast, or is it going to be this? So this is going to be a pajama pod.
We're doing pajama podcast. I'm over the weekend. I might see if anyone wants to just join me. We might not even make it like a podcast. If anyone wants to join me for a Monday morning Tetris tournament,
Tetris effect.
We might.
Well,
I might just even
office,
just do JS and let people just jump in from a web browser if they wanna play along.
So my only problem with well, actually no, that's not true. You do stream to YouTube as well because you're on this channel on your Monday show. So I'll see how things are during around like the 9 o'clock or so timeline on Monday because I'm in the office and I can't. So Twitch for me doesn't work at all. It's blocked from the office. But YouTube isn't. So I know that sometimes I catch you on YouTube and I try to comment from there. But let's see. We'll see what we can do. If it's something that's web browser and it's not blocked, maybe I can try to join and get my ass kicked if it's normal. But it is. I say, hey Donald. Hope you're doing well, man. I haven't seen you for a while. I want to say first, obviously, thanks to everybody for hanging out with us on this beautiful Thursday night. It is. Is this the last Thursday, right? Or is there one more Thursday? Because next week, I think. No, next week is the last Thursday of the month. Next week is the 31st because there's one more Thursday of this month. So we'll close it up next week. We'll be back for another episode. I'm going to be back so next week I'll be back in the office, although there is a trip coming up before it. I'm like, it's starting to pick up. It's starting to pick up. It's crazy, but they're short trips. They're local. They're nothing big. All to try to bring more tech and more fun stuff, kind of to share with you guys.
It's good times.
So it'll be exciting. So for sure, keep it with us. Thank you very much for the support. Like and subscribe as usual, and check out the audio podcast. It should be coming up pretty soon for the replay crew. And of course, we appreciate all your support. So take care, everybody. We'll see you soon again, very soon.